All right, so we have our SQL database that got created. If I go into my resource groups and I type SQL, I can see the resource group that I created. And two resources are living in my resource group. One is the server itself. This is where we assign the URL, for instance, and the database, which is where the data, the tables, and the functions and the store procedures and things are going to end up being defined. Okay, you can have multiple databases running on a server. Now we can check the deployments real quick. We can see that it took 1 minute and 38 seconds to create this SQL database, so it's pretty quick. It's just we're just a tenant in an existing infrastructure Microsoft has. Okay, so let's choose to go into the SQL database. So we're going to choose SQL database. Now we do have some elements, even though this is a database as a service. Microsoft does tell us the amount of the resources that we're using. So remember, we signed up for the basic plan, which is 5 DTUs. And so if we find ourselves running at high resource utilization during peak periods, we may want to consider upgrading to standard 10 units or other options, right? Now we can see, even on the home page, we can see our storage used because there's max utilization of 2 gigabytes under this plan. And we can actually start to see some of the settings that we have in terms of performance, in terms of backup and recovery, geo-replication, and the different security settings. So this is all sort of on the home page here. Now, databases, just like a SQL Server running in your environment, are connected using connection strings. And so we could click on this and Azure will give us the connection string. Depending on our language, we can see how to connect to this within our application code. Okay. Now, very similar to Cosmos DB, another advantage that SQL database has over running a SQL Server in a VM is how easy it is to get geo-replication going. So right now I have a single instance of my database running in Canada East. There's no other backup storage that's being put all over the world, for instance. But if I wanted to, I could set up a geo-replication, and then that would be another point at which applications could read. So it becomes a read-only location. On the map, we have a purple region. That's going to be the highest speed option. And then any of these green regions, we can also deploy our geo-replication to. So let's go into the regions here. Scrolling down, we can see that I'm running in Canada East. And I can choose Canada Central as a secondary location as an example. Okay, so it's going to have the same database name. It is a read-only database. I would have to create a new server. So just like I have the server running in Canada East, to create the server in Canada Central, I'll just have to go through that bleed. It's not an elastic pool, and it's going to be the same pricing tier as the main. Okay, so create a new server, call this AZ SJD new DB, which is already taken, of course, BKP for backup. And I give it the administrator. And so I can basically create a server just like I did for Canada East in Canada Central. Okay. So Microsoft Azure is going to take care of creating the database in Canada Central and keeping that database up to date. So when I do a write in Canada East, that data gets migrated and replicated into Canada Central as quickly as possible. It is not instantaneous, perfect replication, but basically there's going to be a low latency when a event happens and a transaction happens in Canada East. That data gets into, in this case, Canada Central. I should say too, now I am paying for 2 servers. So the $7 a month I was paying for Canada East, I am now times 2 because I'm paying the same for Canada Central. This is not, nothing is free, right? So now theoretically I could deploy this now into Europe. I can deploy it into Asia. My applications could be intelligent enough to know that it would be quicker if the application's running in Asia to look up the data in a read-only fashion from the Asian environment than to have that app that come to the Canada environment to get that data. So we can actually program our applications with these multiple endpoints and have them geographically aware to say, oh, in this region within so many thousand kilometers or miles, we're going to connect to this this database. Okay, so that's totally up to you as an application developer to say which one you connect to. But in this configuration, it's a read-only instance. Now, the other benefit of this is the failure, right? So if Canada East, for some reason, whatever reason, the data was to get corrupted or the region was to go down, there was to have some sort of technical issue that I cannot access Canada East anymore. Once this Canada Central is up and running and we can see that the database has been migrated, we can force a failover. There's a way of basically instantiating failover into Canada Central, and then Canada Central becomes the primary database, and Canada East is taken offline until it can be replicated or repaired, right? So the geo-replication, not only for performance in terms of reading, but also for failure in case of disaster, So this is the purpose of geo-replication.